Renting versus owning, which is better? I recently read this article which said that renting could leave some young renters up to $600,000 better off if they rent, but is that true? I'm Ed, an economist here at Opes Partners, and this is Property Now. Let's say you want to buy this house. Now, it's a pretty standard house for somebody wanting to buy their first home in Christchurch. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom with a car park for $579,000. Now, what do you reckon it would cost to rent this out? Well, it's about $510 a week, and if you did that, that would give you everything. So that would pay for your rates, your insurance, your maintenance. There wouldn't be any of those additional costs. Now, if you bought it, you'd have to put in about a 20% deposit, and with a 7% interest rate and all the assumptions, you'd have to pay $712 a week as that mortgage payment. So owning a property right now could cost you an extra $200 a week more than renting. But that's not all. If you buy it, you've also got to pay rates. That could be $3,000. You've got to pay for things like maintenance. That could be $200. You've got to pay for insurance. That could be $1,800. So all up, owning that house could cost you another $100 a week on top of the mortgage. And of course, we're not including things like electricity, water, anything else that you'd also have to pay if you were renting. So while interest rates are high, owning your own home, it could cost you an extra $300 a week more compared to renting. So why do people buy their own homes? What generally happens to rent each year? Well, it tends to go up. And over the last 21 years or so, the median rent in New Zealand has gone up by about 4.7% per year on average. Some years it's more, some years it's less, but that is the average. Well, what about your mortgage? Well, as long as the interest rate stays the same, your repayment doesn't actually change. So let's say interest rates are 7% for the next 30 years. Well, in the first week, your mortgage costs $712. In 30 years' time, it's still $712 a week. Now, on this graph, I've included things like rates, insurance, maintenance. So it does go up a little bit because we've got inflation. But what it does mean is that at the start, yes, renting does start out cheaper for the first few years. But over time, renting actually becomes significantly more expensive as you go on. And you've also got to remember that your mortgage is split into 2 parts. One part is paying interest to the bank. The other one is paying back that mortgage. Now, that's a little bit like forcing yourself to save. So if you just look at interest, rates, insurance, so it takes about 7 years for renting to become the more expensive option than owning your own home. So when people on the internet say renting is way cheaper, they're actually right. It is today, and maybe it will be for the next 7 years. But for the rest of your life, owning a home, which could be for 40 years, 50 years, owning becomes cheaper over the long run. And at the end, you'll have paid off your mortgage and basically have somewhere free to live. But with renting, the rent never stops. Now let's come back to that article. What's that 600K figure about? So you might have seen that article and stuff where they said that if you took those savings from renting, put it into your KiwiSaver, you'd end up with an extra $600,000. But when you go on Curdle's website, they never released the numbers, so you can't actually check. Now, I emailed them months ago asking them for that modelling. Never heard anything back. So wouldn't it be great if some nerd on the internet created a spreadsheet that calculated this all for us? Hi, that's me. So just before we get into that, if you enjoy learning about property in this number-focused way, make sure you hit subscribe. We release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. And if you do already subscribe, I know you want to see this spreadsheet. So what would happen if you did what this article said, you didn't take out the mortgage, left your money in KiwiSaver, took any of the money, the savings, put it in shares? Well, I've got all the numbers in here, the property price, the rent, the deposit, the interest rate, the mortgage term. I've got rental inflation of 4.7 and general inflation at 2. I've got capital growth, the value of your property going up by 5% a year, and any shares going up 8% a year after fees. Now, at the end of it, owning actually ends up having $1.5 million more compared to renting and putting any savings in shares. That's over about 31 years. And the reason is that your house goes up in value and you pay off the mortgage at the same time. And owning does become cheaper than renting pretty quickly, within 7 to 10 years. So you can take any extra savings and invest them. The article's bullshit. And the reason is that it's just assertions, saying that renting is better without actually showing you how they got to that number. So you're probably going to want to check my numbers. I'm going to link that down in the description so you can actually check it as well. And if you do want to buy your first home, check out our website, opespartners.co.nz, because we have a service to help Kiwis buy their first homes.